Hey everybody, Dr. JP Gidger here. I want to talk about the two areas that I tend to see golfers spending too much time in the gym. It's not to say that these things aren't important. It's just to say that in my experience of almost 20 years of doing this, I find that golfers spend way more time than they need to working on these two areas. So number one is mobility work. Number two is going to be direct core work. And we're going to talk a little bit about each of these. So for mobility work, you know, I see golfers doing 10, 15, 20 different mobility exercises, spending 30 minutes to an hour just doing mobility, flexibility, and frankly, you don't really need that. For golf, we want to have good neck rotation, we want to have good shoulder mobility, thoracic spine, hips, and then just general kind of mobility through the joints of the body. We really need one good exercise for each area, and some exercise will incorporate movement in multiple areas with that, especially rotationally. I prefer to do more kind of weight bearing seated versus on the ground, but I think there's some benefit to on the ground movements, especially early on. But again, you should have maybe 4 or 5, 6 movements at the most. Most of my clients have a daily mobility program that takes them 10, 15 minutes to run through. And it's just that consistency of doing it every day and making sure you're pushing mobility through the full range of motion. And then we'll add in some resisted mobility into the weight training program as well, in between sets or as assistant movements. But again, you don't need to be spending 30 minutes to an hour doing mobility and flexibility work. Secondly, let's talk about direct core work. So first off, I want to say that pretty much every exercise you do involves your core and works your core, especially if you're doing the main lifts, your squats, your lunges, your deadlifts, even like standing shoulder press, bench press, bent over rows, single arm rows. All these things are going to engage and involve your core. So your core is getting worked all the time. I don't think there's a real high need for direct core work. Now, when golfers do direct core work, I think it's a lot of low-level BS stuff that doesn't really do anything. So if you're going to train your core, it's my belief that we should train our core loaded through a full range of motion like you would any other muscle group. So rotation, side bending, flexion, extension. Personally, I pick one movement a day, add it to the end of my workout, and that's my core training. And frankly, for most of my clients, it looks somewhere similar to that. Maybe one, maybe two movements, focusing on that. Maybe we'll have a few anti-rotation, high weight, high resistance isometrics, carry, something like that to work in. Now, if someone's acute back pain, we may start lower level with some more basic stuff. But for your general performance stuff, we're loading the core heavy. We're loading it through a full range of motion. We'll do maybe occasional kind of anti-movement type stuff within that. So all this is to say is you should be spending the bulk of your training on the things that move the needle the most. And those things are going to be your big movements, your squats, your lunges, your deadlifts, your step-ups, jumps, different jump variations, loaded, unloaded jumps for the lower body, upper body medicine ball work, throws and slams, pressing, pulling, your rows, your pull-ups, pull-downs, shoulder press, chest press, those type of variations. That should take up the majority of workout. And if you have time after that, you can fill in with some assistance work or some core work. Mobility, I'm a big proponent of doing a little bit of mobility, but every day. So I make it part of my morning routine. I recommend to my clients kind of make it your morning routine, 10, 15 minutes every morning. Good way to get the body moving in the morning and a good way to get in that mobility work. But make sure if you're going to be investing time into the gym, make sure that time is well spent on things that are going to be most meaningful for your goals. And you're not just going there blindly doing stuff that's not going to move the needle, that's too low level, or that's way more than you need for that particular body part or area. If you have any questions, reach out to me, johnpaul@gidgerpt.com, or you can direct message me on social media.